Hey guys, Scutless here, and in today's video we're taking a very different approach than our normal Terraria facts videos or even the compilation videos you guys may know me for. Today, we're going to be looking at the 5 most overrated items in Terraria, as well as the 5 most underrated items in Terraria, plus a couple of bonus items that came from my Discord community. And if you guys are interested in joining and possibly having input on future videos like this, I will leave the link to the Discord in the description. With all of that said, let's get started. The snowball cannon. Just look at this thing go. Good damage, easy to use. The other points we need to consider are that it's very easy to acquire ammo for. One snow block gives you 15 snowballs. It does very high damage in the early game, and it even has auto fire. However, we do have to consider the fact that snowballs when fired by the snowball launcher are affected by gravity. Based on the fact that snowballs do not have any pass-through damage, it's a very good early game weapon, but the snowball launcher struggles against bosses. However, if you could find one in the early game, I would totally recommend you take it and you use it as long as you feel it is viable for you. First overrated item we are going to talk about is the musket/undertaker, whichever one you get from the evil biome in your world. We have to consider that these weapons do good damage, and these weapons are very easy to attain. But we also have to consider that these guns have low fire rates, in the early game ammo is very expensive, and arrows by comparison are very cheap and efficient to attain. There are also better weapons you could get from orbs found in the evil biome. Speaking of other weapons found in the evil biome, let's get to our number 4 pick for underrated items. That's right, it's the Vile Thorn, Ball of Hurt, or the Rotted Fork. Like the previous items, these are very easy to attain as you could get them from orbs in the evil biomes. All 3 of these weapons have some form of pass-through damage. And all of these weapons perform extremely well against the Eater of Worlds or the Brain of Cthulhu. The big consideration is that the Vile Thorn is a magic weapon and requires mana, so it could help to have a star in a bottle or some mana regeneration potions on hand. Overall, the 3 weapons mentioned here are all more useful than the guns that drop from evil biomes. The next overrated item I want to talk about is the mini shark. Now I just want to clarify, I only mean the mini shark and I do not mean the mega shark. Use the mega shark with some chlorophyte bullets and it's an extremely useful item which in no way is overrated. Now, while the mini shark is a good weapon, it has an incredibly high cost, especially for the stage in the game that you would be buying one, and there are much better weapons you could be using instead of the mini shark. Bee weapons are a great example of this, and no, they will not be appearing in this video. Also, as mentioned earlier, ammo costs a lot of money for the early game. So, while the mini shark is a good weapon, there are much more cost-effective and better weapons you can pick instead. Now, let's talk about our number 3 pick for underrated item, the Spelunker Glow Stick. The Spelunker Glow Stick costs 1 silver, 50 copper per, and you could use one stick as much as you want as long as you don't throw it. It highlights nearby treasure, similar to a Spelunker Potion, though a Spelunker Potion is more valuable in the late game. The Spelunker Glow Sticks are invaluable in the early game. Our next overrated item is the Lucky Horseshoe. The Lucky Horseshoe negates fall damage. Doesn't that sound great in the early game? While it used to be good, it's been replaced by the Fledgling Wings. I released a short while back on how to get wings in pre-hard mode. You could also use hooks, double jumps, or potions. The next underrated item on our list are Frostburn arrows. One of the main benefits of Frostburn arrows are that they provide the Frostburn debuff. Frostburn arrows even work underwater. And they do more damage than fire arrows. Frostburn arrows are incredibly cheap to produce, and you can see what it takes on the screen. And I would genuinely consider Frostburn arrows the most underrated item in free hard mode. Our number 2 most overrated item is the Ankh Shield. Now, I understand the Ankh Shield is a good item. It prevents knockback as well as many other debuffs. Many of the debuffs which the Ankh Shield prevents can be solved by dodging attacks and having more mobility. Also, the Paladin Shield is more useful for boss fights than the Ankh Shield. Now, we have to consider that the Ankh Shield has a complicated crafting tree, and while it is a useful item, there are better options. Now, let's talk about what I believe to be the most underrated item in all of Terraria. That's right, it's the Sky Fracture. The Sky Fracture is easy to acquire, as none of its ingredients are incredibly hard to come by. The Sky Fracture has a 24% critical strike chance, which is much higher than most weapons in the game. And its damage output is close to weapons that you get post-Plantera, which means it really holds its weight far into the game. Your biggest obstacle to getting this weapon is the Hallowed Desert, but you can man-make this biome if needed. With all of this said, I definitely believe that the Sky Fracture is the most underrated item in all of Terraria. I only found out about this item from a stream viewer. That's how underrated it really is. By the way guys, I stream on YouTube on Saturdays and Sundays at 1 PM EST, and I hope I can see some of you guys make it to some of those live streams. Now, just to give you guys some quick community picks for over and underrated items. One community member said crafted swords, such as the silver broadsword, as there's just better weapons available. Another said the last prism is overrated, but they did not provide any reason why they think this. One community member said the dart rifle / pistol is underrated, as it does a lot of damage and it doesn't seem to get a lot of use. Finally, one community member said the slap hand is underrated based on its meme potential. Now, onto what I believe is one of the most overrated items in all of Terraria. The Daedalus Stormbow and Holy Arrows. Now, this still happens to be a good item. Even after its nerf, it still shreds the Destroyer. But the weapon still has many flaws. The weapon is virtually useless underground. And there are better items that just outclass the Daedalus Stormbow very quickly. And while the Daedalus Stormbow may be useful for outdoor events such as an eclipse, it's not very useful against bosses. So those are what I thought were the most over and underrated items in all of Terraria. But what does everyone else think? Let me know in the comments below what you think are the most over and underrated items in the game.